I'll show you why people love to interview me, why I'm such a good interviewee. Yes. No, I
That's right. I wanted to ask you a little bit about storytelling. When you think about the characters that you created over, decades ago, did the characters come first, or did the story of their tragedy or the exploration or their revenge, did that come first for you?
Good question.
Thank
Never
you.
been asked that before. The characters come first.
Why?
The first thing I had to think of, let's say Spider-Man. I had to think of a character, new character, with a unique superpower.
Yeah.
Well, it seemed to me if a guy had the power of a spider, could crawl on walls, shoot webs. So now I had my character. Now I start thinking of what will his life be and what are the interesting angles. But the first thing you need is who is the character and what is his unique power.
What was what was the most character like you?
Probably Iron Man.
Yeah.
Because, he's so handsome and intelligent and clever and, it's got to be him. Tony Stark.
Of course. You've lived a very, very long life, and you've seen lots of great other storytellers. Who do you love? Who do you like to read? Who are the storytellers that you think are outstanding?
Well, when I was young, I read everybody. I didn't just read science fiction. I read Charles Dickens. I loved Sherlock Holmes. I read Mark Twain. And, of course, I read all the science fiction that I could find. I just like to read. And I did like imaginative stories. So science fiction always appealed to me. Jules Verne, that type of thing. But to me, reading was the greatest thing in the world. My mother used to say when I was eating breakfast or lunch, if I had nothing to read, I'd be reading the label on the ketchup bottle. I had to be reading all the time.
Do you still love reading? Because of the comic books, is visual and art storytelling more fun for you? What do you think about art and modern comics today? Any thoughts?
Well, today comics are just wonderful. It used to be that the writers of comic books were not always the greatest writers. The publishers didn't pay much, and anybody who could put a simple declarative sentence together, a publisher would hire. Write me a story. Just give me a lot of action, fight scenes. That's all they cared about. Not too much dialogue. We tried to make it different at Marvel. Comics today, you have the finest writers working on them. People who write novels, who write screenplays, are writing comics. And the artwork, of course, is fantastic. But it always was. The artists, comic books were always lucky. They had really good artists, people like Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and Gene Colan and John Buscema and John Romita. I could go on and on. They were wonderful art, and they were wonderful storytelling artists. They not only drew well, but they drew like a movie director. In other words, when you draw a panel, you have a choice what to draw. Is it going to be a close-up of the guy? Will it be a long shot? Will it be an angle shot? Will it be straight on? They always found the most interesting way to draw a panel, just like a movie director finds the most interesting way to shoot a scene. So I was lucky. I was working always with the most talented people you could find.
I would love to ask you about the characters, and did you ever imagine that they could change and grow over time? When we think about Peter Parker, we think of the adolescent who lost his uncle and the story of that redemption or that revenge. But now you see in some of the movies, things happen and, Iron Man changes a little bit or Captain America changes. Were you surprised? Are you happy about that? Do you think comic book characters should change when things happen?
What happened was, every time a new writer takes over a character, he wants to put his own imprimatur on it. he wants to put a little of himself into the character. So we think, well, how can I add another angle to the characterization of this? How can I do something with his personality? How can I do something where the reader will get a new version of this guy without losing what he should be? Most writers, anybody in a creative field, you want to put your own signature on something.
Sure.
And that's why the characters are always changing slightly. Anything. It could be, it has to be something that the reader cares about. With the Human Torch, it was bursting into flame. With Submariner, it was being able to live underwater and be super strong. It depends on the character, and you have to keep trying to find new things, new powers that'll interest a reader. Or if you do the usual old power, like speed, you try to put a new hook on it, a different angle, show it in a different way.
Is there anything in your life you would still love to do? When you take comic books and all the fanfare and you put it to the side sometimes and you catch your breath, are there things that you'd still love to try and adventures you'd like to have?
No, I'm doing pretty much everything I'd like to do. Unfortunately, with age comes annoying things, like I don't hear as well and I don't see as well. It's very hard for me to read a comic book now because my eyesight isn't that good. So I've got this big magnifying device, an electronic magnifier. So other than that, I mean, wishing that I saw and heard a little better. No, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm working on movies, television shows, comic books, doing interviews.
That's right.
So what could be more fun than that?